Well, this is incredible. Anti-Trump Republican Tim Miller, who, as you might remember, has been a guest on this show and is going to be again in this segment to respond after you watch this back and forth between him and a Fox News host. He appeared on a Fox News host podcast. Tomi Lahren is her name. And the clip I have for you, I'm going to play it full, uninterrupted. You can just watch this, but brutal for Tomi Lahren. And so you look at that, and then I'll discuss with Tim Miller this conversation. So it's on the subject of, at least this clip, the belief from Tomi Lahren that she is a part of the party that respects law enforcement. Tim Miller corrects the record. Take a look. If I can get this pulled up. There we go.
In George Floyd riots, she said people have every right to be out there. Don't expect it to stop. They shouldn't let up. She talked about reimagining policing, reimagining what ICE looks like. I mean, to say that she's anti-police, I'm not going off of that because I pulled it out of a coconut tree. I'm pulling it out of her own clips of her own voice saying it out loud proudly. So if she's changed her position and now she's suddenly pro-police and she doesn't think policing needs to be reimagined and she doesn't want to abolish ICE, then don't you think she needs to articulate that to us?
Yeah, and I think she is. I think that you're just trying to find things to be unhappy about because you've got to defend your man after, he instigated a riot at the Capitol and tried to overturn the election. You got to find things to attack the other person on. Talk about living in the
past, my friend.
She was the district attorney. She's pro-police. What's
okay,
over?
Well, January 6th is far long
It's
gone.
not really over because he's still lying about the 2020 election. He's still advancing the lie that led to the attack on the Capitol. So it's not over. Police there, you want to be like, oh, Kamala's anti-police? Really? Donald Trump instigated a riot at the Capitol where 100+ police were injured. He won't apologize for it. He's happy about it. He wants to pardon and get out of prison the people that attacked the cops at the Capitol. That guy's not pro-police, and he was asked about this recently in an interview, and he went back down. He said the thing that really upset him was the lefty protesters that injured, that painted the marble at the Capitol. And as a builder, he's really upset about the marble. He's not upset about the cop that lost his eye. Donald Trump hasn't called him. He hasn't called Brian Sicknick's family. Like, give me a break.
Well,
I don't like this whole Kamala's anti-police. Donald Trump is anti-police.
Brian Sicknick did not die because of January 6th. So
really? It was just a coincidence? Or just a quinky dink that there was a riot at the Capitol and one of the officers there died?
Yeah, because he suffered a medical emergency, I believe a stroke, after that event.
No. So you think the stroke would have happened if he was just sitting there minding his own business, doing
people have
general work of
strokes
the
all
day?
the time. People have strokes all the time.
All right, Tom.
But
you're really pro-police. I love how you're showing your pro-police cards by diminishing
there are a few people on planet
Earth
Earth that are as pro-police as I am. And if you want to look at the record, I was very vocal on January 6th. And every day since January 6th, I have condemned it loudly. Go check out my Instagram.
You're for the person that wants to pardon all the people that committed
Donald Trump doesn't want to pardon the people that took part in anything violent. The people that were simply at the Capitol.
Has he said that?
The
Can you
people
show
that
me
were
that? I would love.
He has.
I would love to apologize and be wrong. Please show me where Donald Trump said he's not planning on pardoning the people that were violent and attacking police.
He's clarified. He's clarified that the people that were just at the Capitol that day, that didn't do anything, should not be thrown in the gulag. Okay.
So we'll dive more into that when Tim Miller joins me in just a couple minutes. But first, for context, you do have to see this, where Trump actually says the opposite of what Tomi Lahren's asserting, which is he does want to pardon even those who attacked police officers.
What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed that city?
But sir, my question is on those.
What's going to happen to the people that tried to
My question is on those rioters who assaulted officers.
You have to
would you pardon those people?
What's going to happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just they were convicted.
So, just again, to clarify, my question is about those rioters who assaulted those officers. Will you pardon them? Trump, quote, absolutely, I would.
Who assaulted officers.
You have to
would you pardon
what's
those
going to
people?
happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just
And I want to bring in now Tim Miller, host of the Bulwark podcast and renowned anti-Trump Republican. Tim, how are you doing?
Luke, good to be back with you, brother. I'm doing great.
Great to be with you. So, in sort of reflecting on that, walking away from that conversation, I've seen Tomi Lahren for some time. I've never personally engaged with her, but she's another one of those people who is rhetorically talented at delivering some of these ideas. And thus, I haven't seen her that discombobulated in a long time talking with someone, where for a long period of time, she just sort of sat there not exactly knowing how she could jump in on what you were saying. Give me your initial takeaway from that conversation.
Yeah, Kyle, I'm happy to start doing it. I've been wanting to go over into the MAGA YouTube sphere a little bit and try to, shake the snow globe a little bit, get people out of their bubble. And so Tomi asked me to come on, so I figured I'd be happy to do it. Here's the problem, Luke. As you know, because you've gone into the lion's den several times, these guys don't have the facts on their side on most of these issues, right? I mean, sure, there's certain things, there's certain legitimate critiques you can level against Democrats or against Biden or Harris, but on a lot of this stuff, they don't have a leg to stand on. And so, in the clip that you played talking about the police, I'm just chomping at the bit anytime one of these MAGA folks wants to talk to me about the police or the thin blue line or all that, because it just was revealed to be total BS, right? Like, you cannot tell me that you care about police and then mock the police like Harry Dunn, who were attacked by rioters at the Capitol during January 6th. That's exactly what they did. These guys, these Capitol Police that testified in front of the January 6th committee were ridiculed by people like Tomi. They were ridiculed by Fox. Donald Trump wants to pardon the perpetrators. So, she wants to do this, Kamala wants to do a defund the police play. I saw that one coming, I guess is what I'll say. That dog's not going to hunt. She's going to have to try something else.
Yeah, and by the way, I very much admired the way that you didn't really allow the framing to stand as it was. Something as I guess I would describe myself as inherently honest. I want these conversations to be as good faith as possible. And so sometimes that actually causes me to have a tough time engaging in them, because she'll throw out, for example, oh, she said this or that in the past. And my brain wants to go, okay, cool, let's go down that road and discuss the specifics, watch the clip, talk about how she either didn't say what you're saying or something has developed or the context, blah, blah. But what you immediately did was just flip it around and change the framing. And I would say, as a piece of advice for the viewers, in some of these discussions, pulling someone out of the playing field they're super comfortable with and they've heard MAGA media explain what the talking point is a million times on, and bringing them over to your territory can be a really effective way to reframe the conversation, because then now she's in the position of having to defend what is indefensible. And just before bringing you in, I played the clip of Trump at the National Association of Black Journalists event saying absolutely in response to a question about whether or not he would pardon, specifically it was asked, people who assaulted police officers. And he said absolutely, because those were rigged trials. Give me a response to Trump saying that, and then now MAGA having to bend themselves over into defending him.
Yeah, and that jumped out at me when that happened at the NABJ thing. And, because everybody really focused, that was the first event where he rolled out, if you want to call it that, the attack on Kamala Harris's race, and for good reason. That drew all the attention, just kind of him going back to his racist past of birtherism, or of calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, or of all the other ways that he has made these kind of race-based attacks. That was it was noteworthy and newsworthy and was worth pushing back on, and then there was also a lot of conversation just about how discombobulated he was and how he yelled at the journalists. And so, Trump benefits from this a lot of times, right? Where he is just spewing lie. And, our brains can only really remember one or two of them. And that exchange that you just played, really stood out to me. And I was like, honestly, to me, that is the most outrageous thing of all of this, right? Just this idea that he was liable. He was responsible for the injuries that those police have undergone, right? If Donald Trump had just done what every other politician in history had done and accepted his loss, congratulated his opponent, maybe could have lived to run another day if he so chose to, then there would have been no people there that day. There would have been no attack on the Capitol. and all of those police officers would still be going about their lives in the same ways that they had before, right? So it was only because of Donald Trump that those folks were injured. And then for him to not only not take any responsibility for that, not apologize to them, but actually say that he wants to pardon the perpetrators of those attacks. I think that's very sick. I think it undermines one of the key MAGA talking points about the thin blue line and police. And so I think that's a good clip to play, and it's something that I plan to keep talking about if they ever invite me onto their podcasts again.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the things they got away with for a while was at least convincing people that they believed they were thinking of this myth of someone who showed up on January 6th and was just sort of wandering around and, oh, wait, am I on the Capitol grounds? Oh, no, now I'm in prison for years and years. And as you try to find that case, it doesn't really exist. But that's what they would premise the idea of their being treated so unpoorly on. And what Trump did was crush that argument forever by saying, oh, no, I'm also talking about the people who were violent. Those are also the ones we're honoring at the beginning of my rallies when we're playing the January 6th, as he calls them, hostages, national anthem. And for me, I understand Trump has done the unthinkable before in an electoral sense. I understand that people have this fear that no matter what we do, he could defeat us no matter how much he's failing. But another thing I've been curious to hear from you on is, since Harris started surging in the polls and things started looking way better for her, we're getting reporting about Trump behind the scenes just desperate, panicking, sort of losing his mind and thus falling off of any disciplined message. And to me, if the contrast is Harris with a very disciplined message and Trump praising those who attacked the Capitol, not really being coherent in his policy vision, and then attacking Kamala Harris's identity, how have you, or what I was going to say was, that doesn't seem like a winning message or something that will advantage him in this election. But how have you observed Trump's reaction to Harris getting the raise, and why has it been such a struggle for MAGA to get back on a more compelling message?
Yeah. Well, because everything flows down from Donald Trump and MAGA, and so these guys have to, backfill their talking points based on whatever Donald Trump is saying and doing, right? Because MAGA isn't really an ideology, it's not really there's no foundational principles, right? The principles are just whatever Donald Trump blurts out. And so necessarily MAGA is going to kind of mirror whatever Donald Trump is doing. And Donald Trump is extremely jealous and aggrieved right now. I don't think it takes an armchair psychologist to be able to identify this. He's upset about the fact that he feels like he was winning the election and Joe Biden leaving it changed the field of play, and he feels like that's unfair. He's upset that Kamala Harris is getting more attention than he is. He's upset when he turns on his stories, at night, as elderly men like to do, and he turns on the news and he wants them to be talking about him, but they're not. They're talking about her and Tim Walz. That makes him upset. And so he's lashing out, right? And he is way off of message. And I think that and I don't think that he's figured out exactly what a winning message is against Kamala Harris, where I felt like he was very kind of comfortable with his contrast with Joe Biden. It was this machismo contrast, right? That's why Hulk Hogan was there on the last day of the convention. It was going to be Trump is tough and Joe Biden is feeble and old and frail. And so since he had a comfortable frame, he was still Trump. He was still being crazy, but he was a little more on message. Right now, he's all over the place. And I think as a result, the MAGA folks are all over the place. And, they've got 87 days to figure it back out. Like Trump, for all of that I hate about him, he's good at this, right? He's good at figuring out what a good tabloid front page message is about his opponent. He's good at criticizing people. So we'll see. But they're really flailing right now.
Absolutely. And then last question, as someone who I assume has lots of Republican contacts given your past, and just your knowledge of sort of that world, are you seeing the type of shock and potentially walking away from Trump that I'm hearing about and reporting, where people who were uncomfortable with him but didn't want to go to Biden are now more willing to go to Harris? Is that a phenomenon more anecdotally that you're experiencing?
I think definitely at the voter level, right? And so this question is always are we talking about Republican politicians? We're talking about Republican strategists. We're talking about Republican voters, right? Because the Republican politicians and strategists, they've made their bed with Trump a long time ago. The types of people that were going to leave, like me, left a long time ago. Maybe we'll be able to pick up one or two more ex-Trumpers, and there's an effort out there. My colleagues work on Republican voters against Trump, which is a very, I think, important campaign to try to reach Trump voters and people that had worked for Trump to try to get them to come out and endorse Kamala. So that is ongoing. I think that's going to be tough sledding a little bit among the political elites because they're just so corrupted at this point, and they just don't see any personal gain in going out against Trump. And obviously that's selfish, but that's just our reality. At the voter level, though, you really do see this. We see it in our focus groups that we're doing over at the Bulwark. I think that there was a category, that Nikki Haley voter that I know you talked about, that we've talked about. They weren't happy with their choices with Trump and Biden. Nikki Haley said it herself, like the first team that would change horses, is going to get a big surge in voters. And I think that a certain percentage of the Nikki Haley voters are happy with Kamala, happy with her pro-freedom message, happy with that she's running, I think, a campaign that's very based in patriotism and being future-oriented. And so I think that's, a good sign. Again, it's 87 days left, but I think that is the trajectory is good, and I think that the DNC convention is going to really try to speak to those voters as well.
Good to hear. And to one of your points, one of the things that I think did help to make Biden successful in 2020 was he was running in his policy proposals a very progressive campaign, and that was exciting for people who are progressive. But the coalition that brought him to victory was more than just the base, and so he got turnout substantial in that population, but did a great job of also delivering what I think align with our values. I know align with my values, which, like you said, are these pro-freedom, pro-patriotism, a more unifying message. And Biden did that really well, and I've been so pumped. But then obviously I should note Biden was faltering because of his communication skills not being great. But then Harris has picked up on that and more. Tim Walz and Harris are both just unbelievably strong in their this is a campaign about freedom sort of message, about liberty, about our American values. And if you're a patriot, this is your movement. And that's super exciting. And I do think it blends nicely with, and then allows for a really great coalition when it's blending with those progressive policies as well. Tim, always great to have you on. Where can people find you?
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it. Come on over to the Bulwark feed over on YouTube. We've just been putting up a bunch of new content. I have a bunch of my colleagues, really proud of them. And we're trying to reach out to people in the middle, never Trumpers, former Republicans, but we've got lots of progressives that watch the feed as well. Maybe sometimes every once in a while, we might annoy you with a little bit too centrist of an opinion, but that's okay. We love that. We love to have a good exchange of ideas, and I appreciate everybody coming over to check us out.
Absolutely.